And black people can't afford to indulge rich white people's need to endlessly flagellate themselves. They just want prices to go down and good jobs and the police when you call them.
Well, if he's right, then why didn't people vote for the former prosecutor who actually had policy plans to help the working class?
Stop saying that Whoopi Goldberg getting yanked from The View right after she attacked me on The View is karma. There's no such thing as karma, sorry.
Bill Maher has recently been on a consistent streak of challenging so-called woke arguments as if it is a personal mission, and his latest focus has landed on Whoopi Goldberg. The actress has already been surrounded by criticism for several controversial remarks since 2022, and this time she stepped into territory that quickly escalated into a public clash. Maher responded in a direct and calculated way, breaking down her points one by one with a level of sharpness that turned the exchange into more of a takedown than a simple disagreement. The reaction was immediate as Goldberg appeared to struggle to regain control of the narrative, while the discussion shifted firmly in Maher's direction. What exactly sparked her comments and how Maher's response managed to ripple through the conversation is what has kept people talking about this heated moment.
We have got to get past this endless, unforgiving, zero-tolerance mindset bent on punishing and disappearing anyone caught saying the wrong thing. The right response to speech you don't like is more speech.
Whoopi Goldberg has stirred controversy, and now she is facing the harsh reality of public backlash. And it is far from graceful building on the tension from a previous clash where Bill Maher went head-to-head with Sunny Hostin. Over a heated exchange, the situation has now escalated further. The View Circle is clearly not ready to accept that loss quietly. And this time, Whoopi Goldberg steps in as the unexpected reinforcement, appearing ready to defend the position with full intensity, as if entering a high-stakes showdown rather than a daytime debate. It feels like the momentum has shifted from a simple disagreement into a much louder confrontation, where everyone is trying to reclaim control, and the energy around it has turned sharp, unpredictable, and fully charged.
And black people can't afford to indulge rich white people's need to endlessly flagellate themselves. They just want prices to go down and good jobs and the police when you call them.
Well, if he's right, then why didn't people vote for the former prosecutor who actually had policy plans to help the working class?
Whoopi Goldberg has leaned into her familiar talking points, but this time the exchange with Bill Maher took a sharper turn. Maher's point was straightforward. He was focusing on economic concerns, job opportunities, and public safety issues affecting everyday people, particularly within black communities. In response, Goldberg shifted the discussion toward political framing and past policy support, which some viewers felt didn't directly address the argument being made. That disconnect became the center of the back and forth, with Maher pushing back firmly instead of letting the point slide. The result was a tense exchange where both sides were clearly talking past each other rather than meeting in the middle. And it quickly turned into another moment that fueled debate across social media and commentary circles.
Tear down statues of Lincoln and get rid of the police. Just, no. It's not that I've gotten old, it's that your ideas are stupid.
The ongoing discussion around Whoopi Goldberg and Sunny Hostin continues to generate debate, especially when their views on political and social issues come into conflict with critics like Bill Maher. In several exchanges, the conversation tends to shift away from the original point and becomes more about interpretation and framing, which can create confusion and disagreement on all sides. This has led some observers to argue that The View often turns serious topics into highly charged segments, where clarity gets lost in the back and forth. Even guest appearances such as Charlemagne the God have highlighted how intense and unpredictable these discussions can become, reflecting how quickly differing perspectives can escalate on live television.
All of the criticism is valid because, Democrats stand on this moral high ground all the time and, they act so self-righteous. The reality is he didn't have to say anything in regards to, whether or not, his son wanted to be pardoned. He could have said, hey, man, I'm not focused on that right.
The decision by President Joe Biden to pardon his son, Hunter Biden, sparked widespread debate, especially given his repeated message that no one is above the law. The move quickly divided opinion, with supporters viewing it as a personal and emotional family decision, while critics questioned whether it aligned with the principle of equal accountability. The discussion intensified in political commentary spaces, where figures like Charlemagne the God raised concerns about consistency in public messaging and fairness in the justice system. Whoopi Goldberg offered a more sympathetic perspective focused on the human and family dimension of the situation, which further fueled disagreement and kept the topic at the center of public discussion.
I'm going to stop you for a second.
Uh-oh.
Only because you don't know that it was a lie. We don't know why he changed
You
his
really think he just changed his mind over Thanksgiving weekend all of a
No,
sudden?
I'm going to tell you what I think.
Okay.
Yeah. I think he changed his mind because he got sick of watching everybody else get over.
This latest reaction from Whoopi Goldberg added another layer to the ongoing debate surrounding President Biden's statement that no one is above the law. She suggested that the remark should be viewed in context rather than treated as a strict contradiction in light of the pardon decision, which immediately sparked differing interpretations. Critics argue that the situation creates a clear tension between the principle and the action, pointing to concerns about consistency in political messaging. Supporters, on the other hand, maintain that public statements and real-world decisions often involve nuance and cannot always be interpreted in a purely literal way. As a result, the discussion continues to highlight how quickly political commentary can split into sharply divided perspectives.
This nation was founded on the principle that there are no kings in America. Each of us is equal before the law. No one is above the law. Not even the President of the United States.
This exchange sparked strong reactions as Whoopi Goldberg offered an interpretation of President Biden's stance that some viewers found controversial and difficult to reconcile with his earlier statements about accountability. She suggested that his position could be seen as evolving under political and public pressure rather than as a direct contradiction of his original message. That explanation immediately divided opinion, with some arguing that political language often shifts depending on circumstances, while others felt it raised questions about consistency. During the discussion, Charlemagne the God appeared visibly taken aback by parts of the exchange, underscoring how quickly differing perspectives can collide and intensify during live political commentary.
So I'm just going to follow the straight and narrow always, because that's what's expected of Democrats.
But that's their fault. They're the ones that
They're
go out there and they stand on this moral high ground.
Listen,
they don't have to do that.
The broader debate centers on claims of inconsistency and how accountability and political criticism are applied, depending on who is involved. Critics argue that public outrage in media and political spaces can sometimes appear selective, shaped by whether the individual is viewed as an ally or an opponent, while supporters counter that reactions are often driven by context, interpretation, and differing political priorities rather than deliberate double standards. Bill Maher has added to this discussion by questioning what he sees as contradictions in modern political commentary, particularly around themes of fairness and accountability. His remarks, along with responses from other commentators, continue to fuel a wider conversation about media influence, political alignment, and whether consistent standards are realistically applied in public debate.
You love to speak truth to power, and we always should, but you have completely lost the ability to speak truth to both.
The discussion surrounding the Hunter Biden story has become part of a broader debate about media coverage, political interpretation, and perceived bias. Some critics argue that certain major outlets were overly cautious or quick to dismiss elements of the reporting, while others maintain that the coverage reflected concerns about verification, misinformation, and responsible journalism. This divide has led to competing narratives about how the story should be understood in the public sphere. Whoopi Goldberg, speaking on The View, expressed skepticism towards some of the claims, aligning with one perspective that emphasized caution and context, which in turn drew criticism from those who felt the issue was not being fully addressed. Bill Maher responded by challenging what he sees as inconsistency in political commentary, arguing that public figures and media voices should apply the same standards of scrutiny across all sides of a debate.
Is it appropriate to bury the Hunter Biden?
You're talking about the press doing that?
He's saying that's what they did, and that is what they did. They buried the Hunter Biden story before the election because they were like, we can't risk having the election thrown to Trump. We'll tell them after the election.
And we know for a fact that that's what they did?
Of course. You don't
but
follow
I'm
this.
saying you know for a fact that that's what they did. I don't know what they did.
I know, because you only watch MSNBC.
No, that's not true.
Above any matters of politics or what's right or wrong, the one thing I know for sure about America is this. It's run by mean girls. Mean girls in the press and in politics and in life. And when they smell blood in the water, the lust to finish off a vulnerable person will never be denied. Democrats run for office as if the voters don't live here, as if they don't go to the grocery store and Starbucks and the office, but they do. But a poll last year asked if America is the greatest country in the world. More blacks and Hispanic Americans agreed with that than the white progressives. It asked if racism is built into our society. White progressives agreed with that at higher levels than black and Hispanic people. It asked if government should increase border security. Same result. Hispanic Americans are less okay with illegal immigration than whitey.
It said there's a coalition of Trump voters, people who really like him. They certainly are those. And then there's people who don't necessarily like him that much, but they still think he's less crazy than stuff that strikes them as aggressively anti-common sense.
Stop saying that Whoopi Goldberg getting yanked from The View right after she attacked me on The View is karma. There's no such thing as karma. Sorry. Sorry, but life is random. The only word to describe it when a big game hunter gets trampled by an elephant and then eaten by lions is hilarious.
Bill Maher's recent commentary reflects a broader argument about why some voters supported Donald Trump, suggesting that many were not motivated by strong enthusiasm, but by frustration with democratic messaging and cultural debates they felt were disconnected from everyday concerns. From his perspective, this was less about political devotion and more about reacting to what some see as overly moralized or out-of-touch rhetoric in mainstream discourse. He has also criticized what he views as inconsistencies in public debate, especially when platforms that promote diverse opinions appear to struggle with accepting opposing viewpoints in practice. In discussions involving Whoopi Goldberg and others on The View, Maher has pointed to what he considers contradictions between the idea of open dialogue and how certain disagreements are handled on air. Overall, the exchange reflects a wider tension in media and political commentary about bias, perspective, and what genuine open discussion should look like in a highly polarized environment.